Are less well-known games worth a try? As someone eager to experience many great games in the increasingly short time on Earth that I have, indie explorative adventure games are ones that I've kept finding myself coming back to. With immersive worlds and enriching storylines, and without too much time and skill learning commitment, they've been a perfect way for me to experience a lot of great atmospheric games with interesting narratives that I have missed out on. So much so that I've quickly become a big fan of the walking sim type genre. But now that I've played a number of the most well-known examples of these titles, I've been wondering if there are any games out there which might have been overlooked or buried by the popularity of other titles, but still great games. So I searched for and took a chance on what might hopefully be some great, obscure titles from small developers, which could be the kind of hidden gems I've been wondering about. Maybe these are the best indie adventures you've never heard of. If you're a surface-level walking sim player like I've been, maybe these games I've selected will help you find some good lesser-known experiences. If you're a connoisseur of the genre, you might have some other suggestions. Either way, leave a comment and I'd be happy to hear your thoughts. This first game I'm going to show you is a difficult one to talk about, starting with the game's title. NaissanceE is an adventure puzzle game where you're navigating your way through a surrealist, futurist, brutalist labyrinth of cold grey architecture. Why this is happening is unclear, as there is a minimalist approach to the storytelling. In fact, so minimal it's almost non-existent, with just a written message at the start telling you that you, Lucy, are lost, and that's it. So you're dropped into this bizarre, monochromatic world with no narrative, leaving you to use only your intuition to explore and navigate your way around. There is a great deal of environmental puzzling to the gameplay, and you can and will die to full damage many times due to its trial and error nature. Don't go in thinking that because this is a walking sim that it's going to be an easy-going journey, because this is a game that is brutally tough to get through. Not just because of the difficulty of some of its puzzles and action set pieces, but because of the deeply psychologically, existentially dreadful feeling this game gives you. And with the lack of any contextual clues as to why you're even taking this literal descent into insanity, this is quite possibly more overtly hostile to the player than any game I've ever played. But for its atmosphere, with the environment and sound design and overall feel, it is an incredible experience, and it's done something that feels like it's becoming a rarity in that it's a genuinely unique game. Remarkably, this extraordinary game is available for free on Steam, and is quite possibly one of the most evocative gaming experiences I've ever had. Coming from a game which says a lot without actually saying anything to a game that does the very opposite. The Old City Leviathan is a game that has you exploring an old city. Well, a sort of old city, as it's got a lot of classical or medieval architecture, but there's also lots of modern stuff like electricity and subway trains. It's like a kind of retro-futurist aesthetic that I didn't know the name of, but after some research, Castle Core seems to be a close fit, so we'll go with that. Anyway, the game has you navigating through labyrinths of the city's infrastructure to reach different areas of this very nicely detailed, beautiful environment. For the atmosphere of its setting, it's a very intriguing game, but then the story and the way it's delivered takes the experience down considerably. This game is extremely heavy in narration, which might be the player character's voice in their head or another person entirely using you as a vessel, I just don't really know. They talk in such a ridiculous, unnecessarily verbose manner, it's a lot of work to interpret, and I found myself highly distracted trying to follow along with it. I mean, just listen to some of this.
An assertion from an assumption is still an assertion, making any deduction from that foundation subject to critique. I may not be able to deduce from a place that I know to be true, but that which I deduce from my dreams must still be compatible with itself.
I can just imagine even the guy from Dear Esther hearing this and thinking, alright mate, dial it back a little bit there, Shakespeare. As far as I can work out from casually hearing it, while trying to play a game, is that there was an ancient society ruined by some sort of religious war or socio-economic disparity, and you're someone who was dwelling in the sewers to escape from it all and are now emerging again. I'm not sure if you're even supposed to understand it all, or if it's intended to be philosophical and interpretive, but either way it just comes across as nonsensical and pretentious. It seems to be inviting you to make more effort than should be necessary to delve into its word salad to find its meaning. But as it gives you almost nothing up front to establish your place in the story, there's not enough to care about to even want to know more. It is a stunning looking game with a great soundtrack, but with nothing under that surface except a thesaurus slammed into your face. The Old City Leviathan is what I imagine it's like to be with a very attractive partner with no personality. I can only imagine that because my wife, she's a very interesting person, you see, so, anyway. Time for a more action-packed adventure now in the Fidelio Incident. This is the story of a man named Stanley, a man from Ireland who crashes his plane on an island in Iceland. The main plot involves you having to find your wife Leonor amongst the wreckage in unforgiving, icy, mountainous conditions after hearing that she is still alive through a conveniently faulty one-way working phone. The plot thickens considerably as Leonor implores you to gather all of the evidence of her diary pages which have scattered everywhere, as it's important that any rescuers can't know who you are or what you have done. The intrigue and mystery plays out superbly through reading these pages and also through Stanley's hypothermia-induced hallucinations, as it's revealed that you are both on the run due to your actions during the Troubles in Northern Ireland. There's a survivalist game mechanic element where you have to get to sources of heat such as fire or steam vents to prevent yourself from collapsing in the snow. This keeps you following along with the game's objectives by moving from point to point and also stops you from being naughty and trying to freely explore too much of the game's spectacular environment. There's also some occasional mild environmental puzzling to keep gameplay ticking over, and this is an overall exciting and tense experience as you undertake a difficult journey to reunite with Leonor fraught with danger. This game proudly states that it's an homage to Beethoven's opera Fidelio, which I'm not sure is an exactly resonant point of reference for the average video game audience, but they seem to enjoy doing that, so fair enough I suppose. This is a truly outstandingly good adventure game title, which I can't believe isn't in the same conversation as other well-known walking sims, but this game possibly got drowned out by being released within the same year as Firewatch and What Remains of Edith Finch. I think the Fidelio Incident is an incredible, thrilling and intriguing experience and, although it doesn't exactly do anything too novel or unpredictable, is a possible contender for most underrated game in its category. Another contender might be the final game I'm looking at, Draugen. This game tells the story of Edward, who has paddled up a fjord with his ward to investigate a small Norwegian village where he believes he may find his long-lost sister. You soon discover that the village is mysteriously deserted, and an intriguing story emerges as you investigate the fate of the villagers and the truth about your sister, Betty. The stiff and sensible protagonist Edward, along with his aloof, sarcastic and playful young travelling companion Alice, make an entertaining odd couple-style pairing as you navigate the enigmatic village for clues about your host family's disappearance. The voice actors of the two characters are superb and have a wonderful chemistry which effortlessly carries the weight of the thrilling drama unfolding, leading to the incredible tonal shift which comes when the game-changing plot twist is revealed. For its soundtrack, the atmosphere of its setting and its remarkably interesting storyline, this is a great game, but with the emotional weight of its third act factored in, it becomes an absolute masterpiece of art. This is an immersive mystery, and while the village's fate goes somewhat frustratingly unsolved, the character drama of its protagonist becomes a much more compelling story, which I respect too much to spoil here if you haven't played it. Just know that if you're a player of walking sim adventures, which this game doesn't explicitly categorize itself as, but definitely is, this is an absolute must play and I think deserves to be as well known and celebrated as others in its category. To know that there are excellent games like these which stay under the radar is a somewhat overwhelming and humbling thing to discover. Year upon year there are so many more games being produced by so many more studios that it seems impossible to fully experience them all. But this also means that there are great curated experiences for all kinds of players, with each individual taste being served with an incredible breadth of choice, that even someone like me who enjoys what some may consider slow-paced explorative gameplay can continually find exciting new adventures. It's easy to look at the quality on the main storefront pages, the games that are making all the journalistic headlines and Game of the Year nominations as the signifiers of the standards of the modern gaming industry. For me though, it's the mere existence of these outliers and underdogs of games, which obviously perhaps had one or two slightly underwhelming aspects which let them go widely unnoticed while still being enjoyable experiences, that show that we are truly living in the golden age of gaming.